Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. So today, I wanted to talk about something a little personal, some of the things I had to give up when I decided to move aboard full-time. Now, giving things up sounds a bit negative, but here's the twist. I don't miss a single one of them. In fact, letting go of these things has made life simpler, lighter, and honestly, a whole lot more joyful. This lifestyle teaches you to live with less, listen to nature's rhythm, and focus on what really matters. So, if you've ever wondered what kind of sacrifices come with boat life, or if you're sitting there thinking, could I really do it? This one's for you. Let me share the 5 big things I gave up to live on a boat, and why I haven't looked back. When I moved onto my boat, one of the first things I had to come to terms with was the lack of space. I'd gone from living in a modest home, nothing fancy but with room to stretch, toss my jacket on a chair, or leave a project half-finished on a table, to a floating home where every inch has to serve a purpose. There's no extra room on a boat, no spare closet, no junk drawer. If you're not using it, it's in the way. If you can't store it efficiently, it doesn't belong on board. At first, I felt a bit boxed in. It's not just the physical space either. It's the way you move, the way you think about daily routines. Making coffee becomes a Tetris game of mugs and pots. Stowing groceries is like solving a puzzle. But once I got the hang of it, something interesting happened. I stopped missing all that extra room. Instead of spreading out, I streamlined. I figured out what I actually use and what was just taking up space in my life. I pared down my wardrobe, simplified my kitchen, and suddenly, everything felt lighter. There's something deeply freeing about being able to account for everything you own and knowing exactly where it all goes. I found out I didn't need 3 types of frying pans or pile of throw pillows to be comfortable. And the other side of it, being outside more. On land, I spent a lot of time indoors, working, watching TV, tinkering in the garage. On the boat, I spend more time under the sky. My living room is the cockpit with a view of the water. My backyard is wherever I've dropped anchor. Even when I'm tied up in a marina, I find myself outside more than in. That open-air lifestyle more than makes up for the lack of square footage inside. Sure, I can't pace around a big living room or have 10 friends over for dinner without bumping elbows, but what I've gained is a sense of presence. I'm not just filling space anymore, I'm living in it. Every movement has intention, every object has a place, and that smallness has brought me closer to what matters most. I used to think space equaled freedom. Now I know better. Freedom, for me, comes from simplicity, from shedding the excess, and from living in tune with my surroundings. And that cramped little cabin, it feels more like home than any big house ever did. One of the biggest shifts when moving onto the boat wasn't the sailing or the small living quarters, it was losing that always-on, high-speed connection to the internet. I didn't think it would be a big deal at first. After all, I was chasing freedom and adventure, not screen time. But let me tell you, it was a shock to the system. On land, I never really thought about it. Wi-Fi was everywhere. I could stream music while I cooked, watch videos to fall asleep, or look up the answer to any random question the second it popped into my head. It was normal, it was constant, and without realizing it, I was tethered to it. The first time I set sail and lost service within a few miles of shore, it felt like being cut off from the world. No Jeeps updates, no weather forecasts, no social media, no news. Just me, the sea, and whatever I downloaded ahead of time. But here's the thing, I adapted. Slowly at first, and then with more confidence. I started planning ahead, checking weather windows more carefully, downloading charts and articles I might need, and setting up ways to check in with family over satellite if I had to. It wasn't seamless, but it worked. And more importantly, it changed how I interacted with the world. Without the constant ping of notifications, I noticed more. The sound of the water lapping against the hull, the sky changing colors at sunset, the way the wind shifts just before a squall, all things I might have missed if I was glued to a screen. I also found myself feeling less anxious. The news wasn't constantly feeding me bad headlines. Social media wasn't dragging me into endless scrolls of other people's highlight reels. I wasn't checking emails or obsessing over messages. My brain had more room to breathe. My thoughts became my own again. Of course, I still use the internet. It's how I upload these videos, keep in touch with folks, and run this little floating life of mine. But it's no longer the background noise of my every waking moment. It's a tool, not a lifeline. Funny thing is, now when I go back to land for a few days and the signal bars fill up again, I don't feel relieved. I feel overwhelmed. Too many updates. Too much noise. I've gotten used to the quiet, and I like it that way. So yeah, I gave up a constant internet connection, and in its place I found a deeper connection with the world around me. Not a bad trade, if you ask me. Back when I was living a more typical life on land, my days were ruled by the clock. Wake up at a certain time, go to work, hit the gym, eat dinner, maybe catch a bit of TV, and then crash into bed, only to do it all again the next day. Weekends had their own rhythm too. Errands, chores, maybe a dinner out if I had the energy. It was predictable. It was structured. It was, well, a bit robotic. Moving onto the boat blew all that to bits. Out here, life dances to a totally different rhythm. I don't wake up because an alarm buzzes. I wake up when the sun filters through the hatch or when the boat shifts with the breeze. Sometimes I make coffee and read for an hour before I do anything else. Other days, I'm up early, tightening lines or pulling anchor before the wind picks up. The only schedule I really follow is the one nature sets. The tides, the weather, the daylight. At first, it was disorienting. I kept checking the time, feeling like I should be doing something productive. But over time, I began to let go of that pressure. Productivity started to mean something different. It became about maintaining the boat, navigating safely, catching dinner, or just being present. The stress of racing through each day faded, and with it came a surprising sense of peace. Now, don't get me wrong, boat life still has its routines. There's maintenance to keep up with, navigation to plan, and meals to cook. But those tasks feel more grounded, less like items on a to-do list and more like living in the moment. Some days are busy, others are slow. And the best part, I don't feel guilty for either. Letting go of a rigid, normal schedule has made room for spontaneity. If I want to sail off to a quiet cove on a Tuesday or spend a lazy Thursday watching dolphins from the deck, I can. It's not about doing less, it's about doing what matters. So yeah, I gave up a normal schedule, and in return, I got my days back. If you looked at my old life before the boat, you'd have seen a garage full of tools, shelves packed with books I never opened, a closet stuffed with clothes I barely wore, and a kitchen filled with gadgets I used once. It wasn't hoarding, exactly. I just didn't realize how much of it I didn't actually need. It was normal. Everyone had too much stuff. Then came the boat, and let me tell you, nothing forces you to take inventory of your life like moving into a space the size of a studio apartment, with storage that leaks if you don't seal it right. I had to get ruthless. Do I really need 4 pairs of sneakers? No. That fondue set I used twice in 5 years? Absolutely not. Half the sentimental knickknacks didn't make the cut, not because they didn't mean something, but because I had to prioritize space and function over nostalgia. At first, it felt a little like loss. Parting with things that held memories or might come in handy someday wasn't easy, but once they were gone, I didn't miss them. What I did feel was lighter. Every item I kept had a purpose or brought real value. I knew where everything was and nothing gathered dust just because. Now the things I carry with me are chosen carefully. A solid multi-tool, clothes that hold up to salt and sun, a few books I read over and over, and small comforts like my favorite mug or a photo tucked into a hatch. That's it, and that's enough. The truth is, I used to think having more stuff meant being prepared, but it turns out simplicity is the real preparation. When a storm rolls in or I'm anchoring in unfamiliar waters, it's not the extra shoes or backup blender I'm counting on. It's the skills, the mindset, and the freedom that comes with not being weighed down. Giving up all that extra stuff didn't leave me with less, it gave me more space, physically and mentally, for the things that really matter. Before I moved onto the boat, I lived in the thick of it. Cars honking, sirens wailing, neighbors yelling through thin walls, and the constant hum of life never quite shutting up. At the time, I thought I'd gotten used to it. I'd fall asleep to traffic noise, wake up to garbage trucks, and fill the in-between with podcasts and background music just to drown out everything else. I didn't realize how much it wore me down until I left it behind. Sailing away from that world was like exhaling for the first time in years. The first few nights on the water were oddly quiet. I remember lying in my bunk, expecting some kind of noise to fill the silence. But there was nothing. Just the gentle slap of water on the hull, the creak of the lines, and maybe a distant seabird now and then. At first, that stillness felt strange, almost eerie. My brain kept waiting for the next interruption. But instead, it just relaxed. Over time, I started craving that quiet. I noticed the subtle sounds that city life had buried: the wind shifting through the rigging, fish jumping at dawn, the soft hush of rain on the deck. Even the storms had their own kind of rhythm. Loud, yes, but natural and somehow grounding. It's not silence, exactly. It's peace. Now, when I go back to the city for supplies or to visit friends, I feel overwhelmed within hours. The traffic, the chatter, the blaring TVs in every corner of a store, it all feels like too much. I find myself counting the minutes until I'm back on the boat, rocking gently in a quiet bay somewhere far away from all that noise. What surprises me most is how my own internal noise has changed too. Without the constant bombardment of city sounds and distractions, my thoughts are calmer. I daydream more. I notice things more fully. That quiet has given me space, not just around me, but inside me. So yeah, I gave up the noise of city life, and in doing so I gained a kind of stillness that no amount of noise-canceling headphones could ever deliver. So there you have it. 5 things I left behind when I stepped into this boat life, and honestly, I haven't looked back. Sure, it was a bit of a shock at first. Letting go of space, connection, routine, stuff, and all that city noise felt like peeling off layers I didn't even know I was wearing. But what I got in return: freedom, clarity, and a whole new appreciation for the simple rhythm of living close to nature. This lifestyle isn't always easy, and it sure isn't glamorous every day, but it's real. It's quiet in the best ways. It makes room for things that matter, like sunrises over still water, the satisfaction of a well-tied knot, and the peace that comes when you finally stop chasing the noise. If you're sitting there wondering if you could do it too, let me tell you, it's not about what you give up, it's about what you make space for. And out here, there's plenty of space for the good stuff. Thanks for spending a bit of your time with me. Until next time, fair winds and following seas.